Hello and welcome to yet another informative and analytical episode of Around the World by Drishti IAS. And in today's episode, we will talk about the challenges and concerns in China's economic landscape. A fresh consensus has developed among numerous economists, reporters, and various experts concerning the recent deceleration in China's economy. They argue that the challenges China faced in the spring of 2023 suggest a more severe and enduring issue rooted in flawed, isolated, and Communist Party managed decision making in response to COVID-19 and its repercussions. This is expected to have negative impacts on the worldwide economy. For more than a quarter century, China has been synonymous with relentless economic development and upward social mobility. As its vast population of 1.4 billion people developed a growing appetite for global products and commodities, including Hollywood films, South Korean electronics, and Australian mined iron ore, it served as a powerful driving force behind what seemed like an inexhaustible engine of global economic growth. However, this previously dependable engine is now displaying signs of deceleration, giving rise to considerable concerns for Chinese households, reverberating economic repercussions across the international landscape. Long standing as the linchpin of a profit-oriented rendition of globalization, China has now evolved into a pivotal yet unpredictable factor during a period of unparalleled uncertainty in the global economy. The commonly accepted view is probably too early to judge and might be somewhat incorrect, at least to some extent. So let's see the facts that show the trajectory of the decline in the economy. In 2022, China's economic growth was limited to just 3%. A survey conducted by Nikkei in December involving 37 economists suggests that growth is expected to remain sluggish in the early months of 2023, but is likely to make a strong recovery in the latter part of the year. The economists on average predicted a GDP growth rate of 4.7%, with most forecasts falling within the range of 4.0 to 5.9%. However, even in the most optimistic scenario for China's recovery, it's unlikely that the country will return to the exceptionally high growth rates it experienced for decades. Historically, China's GDP has grown at an average rate of nearly 10% per year since the commencement of economic reforms in 1978. According to data from the World Bank, China's robust economic growth over the years has led to a remarkable expansion of its economy, increasing over tenfold from around $1.2 trillion at the beginning of the century to nearly $18 trillion by 2021. Nonetheless, economists predict that in the coming years, China's growth rate will slow down considerably, falling within the range of 2 to 5%. Additionally, economist Michael Pettis, a senior fellow based in Beijing at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, has pointed out that the era of high growth, while only now showing signs of slowing in the statistics, has been declining in terms of productive investment for the past decade to 15 years. Now let's try to understand the possible reasons behind the decline in China's economy. COVID-19 outbreaks in various Chinese cities, including manufacturing hubs like Shenzhen and Tianjin, have disrupted economic activities across industries. Consumer spending has also decreased, impacting sectors like food and beverages, retail, and tourism. External factors such as higher interest rates, inflation, and the Ukraine conflict have reduced demand in countries like the United States. In response, the Beijing government introduced a substantial 1 trillion yuan, around $203 billion plan in August to support small businesses, infrastructure, and real estate. However, there is still potential for further government initiatives to boost consumer spending, meet growth targets, and create jobs. The sluggish activity in the real estate sector and the prevailing pessimism in the housing industry have undeniably had a significant impact on the pace of economic growth. This has had a substantial impact on the economy because the property sector and related industries constitute a substantial portion, up to one-third of China's gross domestic product. When people lack confidence in the housing market, it creates uncertainty about the overall economic situation. Many home buyers have chosen not to make mortgage payments for incomplete properties, and there is a growing concern that their houses may never be finished. The demand for new homes has decreased, leading to reduced imports of construction-related commodities. Despite Beijing's attempts to support the real estate market, home prices have seen a decline of more than 20% in many cities this year. Severe weather events such as heat wave and drought in Sichuan and Chongqing are having a lasting impact on China's industries. The increasing demand for air conditioning strained the electricity grid, heavily reliant on hydropower in that region. This led to disruptions in major factories, including iPhone, Foxconn, and Tesla. China's Statistics Bureau reported a significant decline in profits, with the iron and steel industry alone experiencing an over 80% drop in the first 7 months of 2022 compared to the previous year. China's ongoing regulatory crackdown on its tech giants, which has persisted for 2 years, is exacerbating the situation. Tencent and Alibaba recently reported their first decline in revenue, with Tencent's profits plummeting by 50% and Alibaba's net income halving. The growing influence of state-owned enterprises and tense relationships with major trading partners like the United States and Europe are causing foreign investors to divest from Chinese companies. To illustrate, SoftBank from Japan withdrew a significant sum of money from Alibaba, and Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway is selling its stake in the electric vehicle manufacturer BYD. In the latter part of this year alone, Tencent witnessed withdrawals of investments exceeding $7 billion. The primary cause attributed to the economic downturn is the declining population in China. Last year marked the country's first population decline in 6 decades, giving rise to concerns about the future labor force. China's total fertility rate, which reflects the average number of children expected per woman during her lifetime, plummeted to an unprecedented low of 1.09 in the previous year, down from 1.30 just 2 years earlier. The aging population in China presents significant challenges to the nation's economic growth prospects. The lack of decisive measures to stimulate domestic demand and concerns about the spread of economic hardships have prompted a fresh round of downward revisions in growth forecast. Several major investment banks have adjusted their predictions for China's economic growth to below 5%. Finally, let's try to find the crux of what we discussed so far. China confronts a complex array of structural challenges, including diminishing productivity, a contracting workforce, technology transfer limitations imposed by the United States and other nations, the ongoing correction of a real estate bubble, elevated youth unemployment, and a leadership that seems to prioritize party control and national security over economic expansion. These multifaceted challenges cast doubt on the possibility of China's growth returning to the rapid rates observed from 1980 to 2010, when annual growth averaged nearly 10%. Recent indicators of economic weakness have raised apprehensions that China may struggle to attain its targeted economic growth rate of around 5% for 2023 without an increase in government expenditure. While 5% remains notably higher than the expected growth rates of many other major economies, particularly considering that China annually invests approximately 40% of its GDP, roughly twice as much as the United States, economists still perceive this figure as somewhat modest. Nevertheless, a thorough examination of the present situation suggests that it is challenging to arrive at a definitive conclusion regarding China's economic prospects and whether it will persist in a prolonged period of stagnation. Concurrently, it is vital to acknowledge that a multitude of issues confronting China's economic growth leaves open the possibility of an extended period of economic slowdown. The implications of such a scenario for the global economy are of considerable interest.